This is James Talarico. He is a Texas state representative, and he is about to rip Elon Musk to shreds in an official hearing. Listen to this.
Elon Musk is a Texas resident. So would he theoretically be eligible to apply for these funds?
They're talking about school vouchers. They're basically trying to push a bill that would take taxpayer money and give it to private school students or private schools and stuff rather than public schools. It is a transparent way of redistributing wealth from the very poor to the very rich. And that's what happens in practice. Other states have been trying to do this for a long time. Oklahoma is one of them. It doesn't help the poor. It doesn't improve their education outcomes. It makes things worse. It worsens the political and wealth divide. Additionally, Oklahoma is using this exact issue as a means to shoehorn in religious teachings in school. Legally, according to everything that we understand about how the judicial system works and our Constitution and all of it, if you receive federal funds as a school, you cannot favor one religion over another religion. You want Bibles in there, fine. But you have to make sure people are also allowed to hand out Qurans or atheist handbooks or whatever. But private schools don't receive federal funds, so they can do whatever they want. They can teach the Bible and they can shut out Muslims, ban them and everything, whatever they want. There are no limits to this because they don't receive federal funds. Well, Texas doing this exact thing and Oklahoma doing it too, they've been trying to set up a scenario where these school vouchers go to private schools, including for private schools that are Christian-based, Christian private schools. Basically trying to break down one of the protections that we have against separation of church and state, or one of the protections we have in favor of separation of church and state. So anyway, this guy is about to just shred this other dude. By the way, the algorithm is hitting me hard right now, completely ignoring me. So I'd appreciate if you watch to the end of the video. Having increased watch time as a percentage and a raw number is what pushes the video further. Also check out my books, owenmorgan.com. All right, back to the video.
Yes. It was just announced that Elon has fathered his 14th child. I looked into this. 8 of them are under school age. So let's say
That is a lot of kids. And a weird, statistically odd number of them are boys, like to a point that it's really, really statistically unlikely that he isn't paying to have them come out as boys.
It's a voucher for each of those 8 children. That's over $80,000 a year in taxpayer funds, more than what most teachers make. And so if he sent them to a private school from pre-K to senior year, that's a total of $1.2 million in taxpayer funds for Elon Musk.
I mean, anyone's eligible.
But Mr. Chairman, you're the author of this bill. Yeah, you could limit it to middle class and working class families if you wanted to. But you are allowing, I know Elon Musk is a somewhat humorous example, but wealthy parents, whether they're the richest man in the world or whether they're just a family making over $500,000 a year, they have access to this program.
Elon Musk is not in the committee substitute, but you can keep asking.
Oh my God. Yes, I know that Elon Musk is not part of this. He's pointing out that Elon Musk would be eligible. We want to make people like him ineligible to receive taxpayer money like this. In fact, he should be ineligible. In fact, private schools should be ineligible from having like these voucher programs or whatever. Like this bill shouldn't exist. And by the way, this is the type of shit that my wife like works against every day. Like she works at American Atheists, you know. She contacts senators, state senators, and like asks them what this language means and why they're doing that and if they can tweak this or change that or whatever. Some of them friendly, some of them not. But something you find when you get on a state level, it's way less politicized. So if you point out something really fucking stupid like this, like Elon Musk could feasibly get $1.2 million from Texas. In fact, he lives in Texas, so he could and probably would do that. If you call them or email and point this out as a lawyer, a lot of the time they'll just change it. They're like, you're right. Even the Republicans, they'll be like, that's really stupid. You're right. But some of them are transparently partisan scumbags who are doing whatever it takes to increase the wealth divide between the rich and the poor in the United States, basically.
When you look at Florida, 70% of the users of their voucher program were people who already had their kids in private school. In Arkansas, it was 95%. And so
we don't need to be improving private schools, funding private schools more. We need to be funding public schools more. Why would we be funding private schools? I don't understand what the point is.
My concern is that if this plays out like I think it will, you're actually going to be taking the tax dollars of plumbers and nurses and working people, and you're going to be subsidizing the tuition of wealthy families who already have their kids at St. John's, St. Mark's, St. Stephen's. So that is a transfer of wealth from the bottom to the top. I know the rhetoric around this bill is around...
Absolutely, that's how this works. I mean, whatever you want to happen, that's what happens.
From the bottom to the top. I know the rhetoric around this bill is around helping working class people or helping poor kids, but your bill does not match the rhetoric. Your bill is opening the door to some of the wealthiest people in the state taking taxpayer funds to do something they're paying for anyway.
So the point is, this guy is the and I looked back in my archive. As it turns out, I have another video from him that he's just been killing it. Apparently, my wife has tried to contact him for various bills that she's been working on, child marriage bills and things like that. And he has not responded to her, surprisingly. Most of them do. Most senators and stuff will respond, but I don't know why his office isn't. Anyway, this one is from late January 2024. Check this out. Texas Republicans trying to force schools to display 10 Commandments in classrooms.
And I say this to you as a fellow Christian. Representative Noble, I know you're a devout Christian, and so am I. This bill, to me, is not only unconstitutional, it's not only un-American, I think it is also deeply un-Christian. And I say that because I believe this bill is idolatrous. I believe it is exclusionary.
It is absolutely idolatrous. I don't know how anybody could argue otherwise. Obviously, it's creating an idol.
I believe it is exclusionary, and I believe it is arrogant. And those three things, in my reading of the gospel, are diametrically opposed to the teachings of Jesus. You probably know Matthew 6:5, when Jesus says, "Don't be like the hypocrites who love to pray publicly on street corners. When you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret." A religion that has to force people to put up a poster to prove its legitimacy is a dead religion.
I appreciate the hell out of that. That is an absolutely fantastic thing to have said to these people, honestly. When you pray, go into your room and shut the door and pray to your Father who is in secret. Christians have a tendency to completely ignore that verse, but not only do they ignore it, oftentimes they completely twist and distort it out of proportion. They will reinterpret that verse to be something like, Jesus said that you can do that, but he didn't say that you must do that. He said you can go to your room and pray in secret and all this. And it's like, what is wrong with you? Really? What's wrong with you? How could you possibly say shit like this with a straight face and claim to be a Christian? These people are absurd human beings.
A poster to prove its legitimacy is a dead religion. And it's not one that I want to be a part of. It's not one that I think I am a part of. You know that in Scripture it says faith without works is what? Dead. Is dead. My concern is, instead of bringing a bill that will feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, we're instead mandating that people put up a poster.
Literally, commands from Jesus that you must take care of the poor and downtrodden and everything. And instead, these people are cutting funding to homeless programs. And they're like, God, I don't even, like, cutting Social Security. They're cutting Medicare and Medicaid. They're making people's lives more difficult. They're making them worse. They're hurting the poor. They're making the wealth divide wider. while creating graven images. And, you know, if that doesn't seal it, if that graven image doesn't seal it for you, it's like this right here. Like, look at this. This is a goat made out of money. At Mar-a-Lago, a bizarre golden-hoofed goat idol is on display. The idol is wrapped in Trump $100 bills that say, "In Trump we trust," replacing God with Trump. The idol's base says, "I love you," along with Trump's signature. What the f***? And we can't forget this little ditty right here, this literal golden statue of Donald Trump at CPAC in 2021.
Your boy.
Like, it is so tacky. But anyway, literal golden idol. Literal golden idol. These people do not follow the Bible at all. Not even a little bit. They pretend to, and they use it as a pretext to hurt people that they don't like. Mexicans, women, minority groups generally, atheists certainly, people like that. Absolutely insane.
And we both follow a teacher, a rabbi, who said, don't let the law get in the way of loving your neighbor. Loving your neighbor is the most important law. It is the summation of all the law and all the prophets. I would submit to you that our neighbor also includes the Hindu student who sits in a classroom.
Obviously.
The Buddhist student who sits in a classroom, and an atheist student who sits in a classroom. And my question to you is, does this bill truly love those students?
Is obviously a brazen attempt to force others, to impose your religious beliefs on others.
I'm going to go a different direction than I think you're trying to lead me.
It's not leading you anywhere. He's saying you are idolizing like an object, literally breaking the commandments. Additionally, you are not following Jesus' expectations by helping people. God, it's like she's pretending it's some kind of a trick.
And that is that a very great wrong was done in our classrooms with that 1980 decision.
I think she's talking about prayer in public schools. I could be wrong. I believe she's talking about when it was decided that they're not legally allowed to force students to pray with them. Like, they're not legally allowed to lead students in prayer. Students are allowed to pray. Teachers allowed to pray. They cannot lead them in prayer.
Time on this committee that we try to teach students values like empathy or kindness, we're told we can't because that's the parents' role. Every time on this committee that we try to teach basic sex education to keep our kids safe, we're told that's the parents' role. But now you're putting religious commandments, literal commandments, in our classrooms, and you're saying that's the state's role. Why is that not the parents' role?
Dude, this guy's killing it, honestly.
That
Oh, you don't have much of an answer now, do you? Stumble over your words much?
That's really an interesting rabbit trail that you've gone
Rabbit trail, she says.
on with that.
Would you be comfortable with adding language to receive parental consent from all the parents of students in the classroom before putting it up?
I would not.
Wow, look at that. Color me surprised and knock me over with the feather. She doesn't want that, huh? How about that?
Classroom before putting it up?
I would not. I am, again, going to keep it clean as it came over.
So you don't want parental consent when it comes to students receiving religious commandments?
Because it's not about parental rights, as they love to frame this stupid. It's about imposing their beliefs on others.
I don't believe that. I think that these are foundational to being a good citizen.
Do you believe schools are for education and not?
I'm sorry. She says that the commandments are foundational to being a good citizen. No, they're not, actually, in any way, shape, or form. They have nothing to do with being a good citizen. I mean, just for laughs, let's just kind of scroll through them. Let's see, what are these things you need to do to be a good citizen? Church of Jesus Christ, okay? Thou shalt have no other gods before me. You have to be a Christian and worship only Yahweh to be a good citizen? Atheists, Buddhists, or whatever other denomination you want to believe in or whatever, those cannot be good citizens? Those are necessarily bad citizens, or on average are worse citizens than Christians? No, that's not true at all. Number 2, shall not make unto thee any graven image. Well, that's right out the window, I guess, isn't it? That's like what they're doing here, seems to me. That has nothing to do with being a good citizen. Number 3, thou shalt not take the Lord of thy God in vain. What does that have to do with being a good citizen exactly? I'm lost. Number 4, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. How is that connected to being a good citizen again? Number 5, honor thy father and thy mother. Okay, well, that's one, I suppose, that we got to, but I think that we can tell students to listen to your parents, whether they're Christian or not. Number 6, thou shalt not kill. You don't need to be Christian to know that. Every single culture throughout history has had some regulation or some bans or bars against murder. Some restrictions is the word I was looking for. Every culture throughout history has had restrictions on murder. Number 7, thou shalt not commit adultery. I should be allowed to do whatever the fuck I want, right? If I want to commit adultery, shouldn't I be allowed to? You're going to tell me you're going to put me in jail because I cheat on my wife or something? Number 8, shall not steal. Again, literally every single culture throughout history has had some regulation about stealing. That's not unique or helpful or valuable at all. But okay, you know what? You want to put it on a poster? Obey your parents. Don't murder. Don't steal. We'll take those 3. And then we've got 9. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Don't lie is another one. That's number 4 that we'll put on this poster. 10, thou shalt not covet. Well, that's just kind of the basis of our entire economic system, isn't it? What the f*** are we supposed to do if we're not allowed to covet anymore? Do you want to become communist? Or what? We're certainly not going to be capitalist anymore. She's completely full of shit. Every word out of her mouth is a lie right now. Because we know what she's shooting for. She's trying to impose her religious beliefs on others and pretending that it's a public good. Give it a rest. Anyway, tell me what you think about this in the comments. These people are just jokes. And I really appreciate this dude, James Talarico. I appreciate what he's doing, and I hope to see more from him in the future, honestly. I don't know much more than what I've learned so far about him, but he is definitely somebody that I would be willing to support, just based on what I know right now for president or for higher office anyway. Tell me what you think.